The question again is, I can imagine someone with a intellectual disability in higher education. It's also side. That's great. Maybe they can.
You mean in general or in the higher education?
Higher education.
Moment?
Good question.
Good question. Oh, but I like what I see.
Question again. Do we talk about higher education in principle or the higher education as we experience it today? Which I think is a difference.
And also how we define it.
Yeah, but of course.
When I see something very nice,
A lot of people
in the right side of the room. Maybe we can ask something to them. Leslie, would you do that or would I do that? Yeah, maybe.
So maybe I can hand the microphone to someone who would like to say something about why they went to that side or either stayed on that side of the room. Maybe I could see some hands of some volunteers, or I can just point at someone very cruelly. Yes, okay, I'm going to run.
Just the vagaries of the term intellectual disability, because it covers things like autism and neurodiversity and neuroconvergence and ADHD and all sorts of other kinds of things. So if I'm looking at ID in that wider scheme, you know, we have practical application and practical experiences of people with ID in third level. If there was a very narrow definition, then I think it would be a different case.
In what way, narrow?
Yeah, in what way is what I wanted to ask you, if you wanted to elaborate.
I mean, purely by having the capacity to be able to pass entrance exams, to be able to get through. Yeah.
Does anyone else want to maybe respond to that or have their own ideas? Regis.
Well, maybe I should say something about why I stand here. Of course, I know all the nice examples of people with autism, neurodiversity in schools, but I still think that the higher education system is not really made to accommodate for that. There are accommodations, but that is not inclusive. Accommodations mean people need something special, while they shouldn't. It should be inclusive for everyone, and I don't think we are there yet.
You're right.
So
You're right. Yeah, very well. Leslie, you want to run?
Reply to that.
yeah, please.
Because you say we're not there yet, but the question is, can you imagine it?
Yeah.
That is a very.
If we don't imagine, how can policymakers imagine?
So as I'm not put on the spot,
Well done, thank you. Anyone else? Or maybe we can move to the
Next question.
next
Or is
question.
there some phones here? What else?
Your person? No.
No, next question.
Oh shit.
I don't see.
We made a mess with.
Inderdaad, unplugged.
Second question. People with intellectual disabilities are capable of researching and teaching. This side will agree, that side does not agree. More round, if you want.
It's a good exercise. Somebody dare say no.
And we can still move on the yes.
It's just a fighter on you. Because I'm sitting metal.
Yeah.
Okay, see something in the middle.
So I won't.
So is there someone who are voluntarily going to think about something about this? Yeah, thank you. So brave of you.
Thank you. I was just thinking this is even much easier for me to stand here for the second question, because the first one has this problem with like entrance tests and like, I don't know, to read a lot and to persuade people. And if you're even an introvert, it's difficult and it's not a mental disability. So this the second one is much more easier for me, because for me to know something, it's it comes from experiencing something, and everybody is experiencing something. And even if you are experiencing something hard, you can even teach more and learn more. So I think teaching and researching is possible for everybody.
I thought of you.
I just thought that also like how our opinion like is subjective to categorize like what would be like the clear cut for mental disability, because maybe if like there is an Einstein in the room, then we would be like not smart enough or not having the capability to analyze the way like people with really high IQ do it. So I would say that is kind of like contribute to a stigmatization and prejudices that we kind of want to categorize people in. I'm not saying that it's not functional to recognize people, but it's kind of also like at the same time can contribute to this prejudice that we have to tag people with certain labels. So.
Mm-hmm. Someone going to react on that? Or some reactions on that? Oh yeah, I see a phone here. To you.
Thank you. Because in the meanwhile, reading the sentence again, I started moving in this direction because compared to the first sentence, this is a very, let's say, it's a monolithic perception of what people with intellectual disabilities are. Not all people with intellectual disabilities are capable of researching and teaching. So this sentence, I would not agree in the way it is formulated.
But that would count for not all people without intellectual disabilities are capable.
So you would interpret in that way.
It goes both ways. Not, I mean, yeah, needs certain motivation. It needs certain.
Yes, but it's. I mean, the way it is formulated, I see people with intellectual disability as a monolithic. It's presented there, while I imagine there is a big variety of abilities, skills, and so on.
I would also like to add a little piece of this a little bit in terms of what comes to my mind when I read it the second time is also that are we allowed to include them without and so on and so forth. So some might, and I have the experience also, have people, for instance, with the beginning dementia being part of teaching and researching. But then again, is there a certain way of, the amount of intellectual disability where we have to ask ourselves, is that okay or not? So in terms of, in the middle might be reflecting this, it depends.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, there's another.
Oh, I see another hand.
I guess it really depends on how you understand research and teaching as well, and that there are many different ways to participate in research and many different ways to participate in teaching. And that obviously, I think anybody with an intellectual or other disability would be able to participate in research and teaching if we think of research and teaching in a very expanded definition of that. So yeah, I'd say that should be over there.
Also in continuation with what Helen says, I think the conventional research and teaching environments are not welcoming or not made for people with intellectual disabilities. And yeah, maybe that.
Okay, one more.
Actually, just wanted to say, do we know anyone with an intellectual, like really certified intellectual disability professor? Yes, professor?
Researcher.
Researchers or professors. How many of you have been taught by somebody?
I've taught by senior lecturers.
Okay, so just throwing it out there.
Last one.
Just briefly, I think the second statement is much more stereotyping in that it is a statement about all people with intellectual disabilities. You've grouped everybody into one universal cluster. and made a statement about it.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add something from my experience to that everybody's able to teach something, because I worked with people with mental disabilities, and I think that was a time I learned so much about making contact. Yeah, well, that was my point.
Thank you. I think you made quite an impression. Okay, I'm going to unfortunately have to cut the exercise here. We're going to skip the third statement because of time. But we had quite a lot of ideas and opinions, and I think to wrap up, we say, okay, the group of people with an intellectual disability is more diverse than maybe, for example, statement 2 allows for. And I was also thinking there comes maybe the problem of saying over your own kind of like life or not, huh? When the intellectual disability is mild, people have in a large sense still saying like, I want to do research, but can somebody with a severe intellectual disability still decide about that? Or do their parents have to decide? And what happens then? So that makes it also complicated. But we go to the next chapter. Oh. I don't know what happens. Yeah. Which is a short presentation about the research that Leslie and Daniela are doing at the moment. Who can I pass the mic? Yes. Thank you for a lively discussion. It was really nice. I just want to do a very brief summary of what Daniela and I are working on. Which is about the representations of intellectual disability in movies. Is it? Can everyone hear me in the back also? Yeah? Okay. So basically what we're doing is a comparative analysis using film theory and analysis software on a 3-part corpus. And the first part is on non-inclusive representations. Might speak for itself, but basically that means that if there's a character with an intellectual disability in a movie, they are played by an actor who does not have that disability. And there's a lot of famous examples of this. Usually actors that do this win Oscars for it. Yeah. I think everyone knows. The second part of the corpus is inclusive representations. Again, that would speak for itself. Actors with disabilities are play characters with those disabilities. And the third one is eugenics propaganda that target people with disabilities and diseases. I know that sounds like I'll explain. Because the questions that we ask, eugenics is kind of our main subject throughout the whole research, because this is something from the late 19th, early 20th century, but there were a lot of movies made back then in the Nazi regime and also in the United States that showed people with intellectual disabilities and diseases as just these horrible stereotypes of that they would be better off dead, that they just suffer, they have low quality of life. All of this to kind of justify the mercy killings that happened during the Holocaust. And those representations, we see a lot. Obviously, the things have improved a lot, but there's still a lot of negative attitudes towards people with intellectual disabilities now. There's still a lot of health disparages. People are being discriminated against. And we actually found that a lot of representations in movies now are very similar to the representations from that period. It's still a lot of like people are being pitied, or they are shown as having low quality of life. They are shown as being better off dead. This happens a lot. And so that is kind of our overall questions. It's like, how can we sort of trace those elements? How have they kind of stuck to representations now and the way that we think about intellectual disability in broader society? So let's see. And so we're looking at kind of what stereotypes and stigmas do these movies portray, and are there significant differences between, for instance, the non-inclusive representations and inclusive representations? And we also have more plans for inclusivity, because we are an inclusive team. Daniela has an intellectual disability, and we do this research together, but we also plan on doing focus groups with people with intellectual disability, where we would show them some movies or film fragments and then discuss what they think about those movies that are supposed to depict them, but, you know. And we also want to kind of host these sort of seminars, I guess, with people where we try to explain big academic ideas in plain language to them. Oh, and we're thinking about other ways of sort of disseminating research results also in plain language and accessible ways, like open access and
or social media.
And on social media. Yeah. Yeah. And so doing that together is incredibly helpful, and Daniela will now explain why.
Yeah, we watched like 80 movies together. So 80 movies are a lot of movies to watch about the subject. And well, we see some photos on it from some movies. Some movies were adore, and some movies, well, I'm not going to talk about it anyway, because, well, it's not a good image. But the good inclusive movies, I think I'm able to say that they are good, because I live in an assisted community living center. So, and I see people from my own worlds. I recognize, and I say, oh, well, that's your room. Oh, that's kosher. Oh, I recognize them in the movie. Oh, that's so nice to see. And that's you really want that in a movie, because it's so nice to see someone in a movie you can imagine you live next to, and not like a character who is playing autism and stating, well, I had to wear like green on Wednesday and red on Monday, and then the movie is taking place on those days, and then she wears purple. And all of a sudden, thinking, okay, is your autism stuck or not working? Or is it just like a big error in a movie? So if we look where, yeah, sorry. Yeah, the movie is realistic if I recognize some people in it, and I feel they are acknowledged in it. And to be on a positive note, there are also a good examples we love, like the French film Un Petit Tracas Bleu. Leslie saw it first, and I saw it after that, and oh my God, we're loving the movie. Because when I was in cinema with my mom, she said to me, oh my God, that's your room. Oh my God, that's kosher. Oh, I recognize them. And that's, yeah, you really want that. So I think it's time for Mentimeter, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some parts that you also wanted to speak on, the fact that you, as an expert by experience, have some insider knowledge about these things, and you are a really good judge on if those movies are realistic or not, and if those, the stigmas and stereotypes, you recognize them, what the dynamics are like between you and, for instance, caregivers that you live with. and the power dynamics
Yeah, that's
of
true.
those relationships.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And also you have a lot of inside knowledge about things like civil rights, right? You have worked on voting booth accessibility.
Yeah, that's true.
Before this.
Yeah.
So yes, I just wanted to.
Yeah,
add
thank
to
you,
that.
thank you.
But yeah, we have kind of segue to the next exercise, but first we wanted to talk quickly about some prejudices that we kind of had towards each other maybe before we started working together. So for me, I'll start. I have a brother with a profound intellectual disability who is also nonverbal. He would be one of the people that wouldn't go to higher education because it's literally impossible. And that is kind of, that's what I grew up with and that's what I know. And so before I started working with Danielle and other people I've worked with, that was kind of all I knew about intellectual disability. So I kind of had an abstract understanding of the whole spectrum, but it wasn't until I started working inclusively that I concretely understood that spectrum. So I was kind of, I guess, yeah, I don't know, it's weird to admit, but I was like pleasantly surprised about how good your English was, for instance, or how independently you live. So those are my prejudices, but you also have a few about the academic world, which may or may not be true. Which is
Yeah, my whole life I live in like sort of like a special world. So academic people are not in my environment. I don't see them regularly. So when I think about people who are academic, I thought, okay, they are rich, they're nepotism, they are posh, they're not nice, and they are gonna look to me if I'm nothing. That's not entirely true, I learned, luckily, from Brecht and Leslie. You're very nice. But it feels like the world, it feels like separate worlds. You have the special world with disabled people and looking really nice and doing nothing sometimes. And you have the academic world who are sitting in an ivory tower. I mentioned them. You're sitting there in an ivory tower with a glass of wine, very expensive wine, I might add, and some caviar. And I'm sitting in the grass playing Pokemon, I guess, with a Coke in my hands. And I'm waving to you. Well, hi, I'm here. But I'm not able to climb the stairs to be able to be up with all of you. So on that note, we're gonna do the Mentimeter about this subject.
Do you all have the Mentimeter already? I'm not so good at this coordination wise, but the Mentimeter is here now and I need it there. But you guys first need to log in. Yeah. And then we can, but Karen, maybe you can come and help me with this. I have it here and it has to go there. So everybody's logged in? Oh, wait a bit.
You have to sign up as well.
There's a code.
And it then say after that you're in, but you're asked to sign up.
You're all asked to sign up, but not with the code.
After the code.
That's fine.
Use the code.
No, just the barcode.
Yeah, you can.
The barcode doesn't work?
No.
Okay,
It does.
It does.
okay. So,
I think maybe it's between people who you've used Mentimeter.
okay, if you are, maybe then you have to log in if you have a.
If you click on sign up, it's very sneaky. They will ask all your data, but on top you can again enter this number and just click join.
Okay.
It's not very obvious, but
But if you have already You can log in, not log on.
I've just been told, please wait for the presenter.
Yeah, okay. So let's go. Yeah. So you can now type the characteristics you would attribute to a person with an intellectual disability. Here. That's what happens. I'm happier here. I always get stressed out when the kind of things don't work. So, can you enter replies? We don't see them here. What happens?
I'm seeing them here.
Oh my.
Oh, that's okay. It's just.
How can we arrange that?
Yeah, English.
Yeah.
I think so.
Sometime, I guess.
There they are.
There.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So we see, and now I don't see the question. So somebody has to read the question now. What characteristics would you, for people with intellectual disability? Resourceful, that's nice. Thoughtful, resourceful again, interesting, okay.
Right.
Different, open-hearted, sensitive, determination, written.
No, it's not up.
No, it's not up. Yeah, you have your answer, we need it.
Maybe just refresh the page.
It's not,
Yeah, try to refresh.
sorry.
No, the
Refresh. The other side.
Oh, 28 responses.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yay.
All up.
Okay, resilient, friendly, spontaneous. How do you feel about these answers, Daniela? I'm asking the expert by experience because
They're very nice to me and to my fellow intellectual disability people. That's a good word. But also the word excluded. Who is someone brave enough to say that to me? Who has put the word excluded in it? Oh. Are you brave enough to put that to the room?
Maybe I researched the topic of disability for a while. I'm also a person with a physical disability. And research shows that most people, especially with intellectual disabilities, are excluded from what we know as traditional society. Education, work, social participation, political participation. So I often associate disability with exclusion.
Yeah, I can agree with that subject.
Thank you.
we also have some sensitive.
Sensitive. Oh, sensitive. Who was sensitive? Who put sensitive on it? Oh, right, you. That's not the one on walk.
Yeah, that's my experience. Sensitive, or maybe in Spanish is sensible, so maybe it's different. I don't know. Sensible, which means that it's a good thing. They have the capacity to be moved, affected. Sometimes this can be like maybe hard to manage because in terms of interaction, things like that. But I think it's a very positive kind of thing. That's my experiences. That's why I put it. And I'm not saying that because it's intrinsically like this, but it's something that you actually learn. You need to be sensitive in terms of reacting, and so that's why I put this. Let's see.
And you're not saying like the other people are not sensitive.
I'm not saying so. I'm just saying that my experience is that when interacting with people with disabilities, I feel that they are very sensible, and they create a context where sensibility matters, which means that you have to learn to be You have to be sensitive as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm more sensitive than Leslie. Okay, give me another answer. We like to.
Persistent out of the box non-standard.
Yeah, that's a nice answer. Who was brave enough to say that to explain to us?
That would be me. Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thinking behind that is, and also a bit of my experience is that because it is sometimes, I mean, like you said, there is a lot of exclusion and also adversity. And this is, of course, only a positive side to that. I'm not saying this needs to be that case, but that also leads to being a bit more persistent, being a bit more sort of able to think beyond sort of what's standard, what's expected. Again, there's, I think, a downside to that as well, where the exclusion does not have that effect, but to the contrary. But that is what I experience quite a bit. And I think it relates very much also to the sensible aspect that I like your formulation of there's a context that's being created for these things. And
You need the antennas.
yeah.
You're
So
excluded.
that without being able to formulate it that nicely, I think that's sort of where the persistent non-standard out of the box came from. Yeah.
Okay.
And the curiosity, mind openness, and friendship, respect, willing to make contact. What was that? So there's more, yeah, in the same kind of like, yes.
Yes.
You want me to run or?
It's good for me.
It's got one of these combinations, curiosity, mind openness, sociability, that's, I don't know what I should do there in an institution like university and searching for truth when I'm not curious. So that's my basic answer. So curiosity about anything.
So
It's maybe a good, precondition to become or to be a professor that does.
okay, so you are already taking a step further, like intellectual disability, becoming a professor. Because it's about intellectual disability.
Yeah, basic. I mean, that's basically, it doesn't matter if you are or if you're not.
Research.
So basically, it's.
So it's not necessarily
Yeah,
what you would.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And the spontaneous and willing to make contact. Can I say something? Yes, spontaneous, willing to make contact, because it felt a bit like these might be the people with intellectual disabilities that one without an intellectual disability, not being a sibling or a parent, would encounter, because the other ones you don't notice because they're in institutions or hidden away maybe. I was wondering if that might be true, but I don't know who wrote this, so I can't ask. Yeah. And would that be kind of, or is it your experience or?
Yeah, I think in general it is my experience that well, in my work with people with disabilities, they were kind of open to make contacts in one way. Yeah, in all kinds of ways, like also non-verbal. Yeah, that's my experience. But there must also be people who are not willing to make contact.
But you speak from experience in many, so not just encounters in the road. So yeah, and what you say I find interesting is that contact in many different ways, also non-verbal, and that is also something that we are always considering now, how to make contact in other and different ways. Shall we go to the other? Yeah. There's another Mentimeter, but do we have time for that? Or is this basically enough because,
Oh, no, but the other question is already answered.
oh, you did both. Wonderful.
I don't do it.
I didn't.
Next question.
No, yeah, 8 already. So what you would attribute to a university professor? Basically.
That's what I had.
Yeah. That's what I thought. So communication, knowledge, facilitation of learning, emotional understanding, approachable, enthusiastic to share the knowledge and the experience, support others to grow, confident, time manager. That's quite.
You need to refresh
Yeah.
again.
Quite different from
The round.
it works this way.
Yeah, but it's are many here answers.
Yes, please. Yeah. They will come up. So here's the curiosity, mind open, and sociability again. And time manager, supportive, resourceful, curiosity, creative, curious. Where's the making contact thing? So maybe we can just have a look here and see. Also very different to each other. Yeah, absolutely. This one you can also do with gender, huh? Because so many people would see professors as men. Especially, well, we have a professor at Open University, and her inaugural talk, her oratio, started with how her kids saw a professor and how they were astonished that she would become a professor. But that's another discussion. So not always the best social skills. So maybe we see here, because we consider people with intellectual disabilities to have wonderful openness and maybe out of the box social skills, but still approaching. And here it's maybe the prejudice is the other way around in a way. Huh? So that's interesting. Yeah. Does any of you want to say something about this one?
Then I think, I'm not the one who is very. How would you? What are your prejudices? Yeah, you already.
Who's very with anyone white wine?
Unapproachable. Yeah, unapproachable. Not able to talk. Talking in very difficult languages. That I think, oh my God, you're talking like. But it looks like Chinese what you're talking. Yeah, but I think. Yeah. Leslie, you have some experience with this subject. What is? Had some university professors.
True, but I do think it. Oh, I was going to say it depends on the field you're working in, but I'm not actually sure because I come from the humanities, and there's a huge difference in the humanities where one professor will want to actually reach out to, let's say, the public, which is already such a kind of belittling term, and others are kind of writing these beautiful texts that like 3 other people can read, and then so yeah, I like what everyone has written down here. It's very there's positives to it, there's negatives to it. I think there's a lot of truth there. Yeah,
but still the difference between both is also striking.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So it gives us an insight in how we kind of think of both groups as actually quite different. Yeah. Which I think is the main problem. Maybe problem and points. And we can see how we can maybe bring this. We are, of course, trying to bring this more together, open up university, bring down the walls, the walls of glass, we say in a way, not just the ceiling, but also the walls, and bring people in and take ourselves out. So we can work in encounters and in interdependency. Yeah, okay. But thank you very much for your participation in this exercise and for your frankness. We will continue now with the concept of epistemic justice. Oh, wonderful. We have some friends on the screen. No problem. I know you're a wonderful help already, so. I give the mic to Leslie again, and she's going to enlighten you about epistemic justice.
Yes, I just wanted to say one more thing about the differences between those words that we put. And I think in that sense, maybe it's good that we see differences because then the two can maybe complement each other in inclusive research. So,
yeah. Beautiful.
I don't know when we want the break because this part is pretty long.
Well, we still have, we are on schedule counting in the 5 minutes we started late.
Okay. Okay, then I'm just going to talk here about epistemic injustice. So this would be the reason why people with intellectual disability are excluded from the academic world. Epistemology is well, I hope everyone is somewhat familiar with, but it's a branch of philosophy that looks at what it means to know something. It studies knowledge. It asks questions like, what is knowledge? How do we come to know something? What is truth? Are there objective truths? An epistemic agency would be the capacity for an individual to produce, transmit, and use knowledge. Epistemic justice, then, is the right to be heard, taken seriously, and to contribute to knowledge production, transmission, and use. So to turn that epistemic agency into recognized action. Epistemic injustice happens when people are not heard, taken seriously, or allowed to contribute to knowledge production, transmission, or use. So there's 3 issues with this. The first being if someone is not recognized as an epistemic agent. The second issue is the ableist definition of epistemology. And the third issue is the ableist definition of agency. So let's look at where epistemology sort of comes from and what it means to us. It's basically our Western common understanding of epistemology. It often depends on the logocentrism of propositional knowledge. So logocentrism means that the importance of logic and rational thinking are emphasized in knowledge production. And propositional knowledge is the logical, abstract, and verbal way of knowing that something is true. And this is very different from things like practical, tacit, embodied, and affective knowledge. These types of knowing, they relate, for instance, to feeling, both physical and emotional. Knowledge that is gained from experience, like from experts by experience, and also knowledge that can be expressed non-verbally. And so I have an example. Think about a teddy bear. And you would know, you can sort of abstractly understand and verbalize that a teddy bear is soft. And that's something you could say, and that's something you can know even without touching the teddy bear. But think about my brother who has a profound intellectual disability. He would not be able to verbalize this, but he does still know that the teddy bear is soft, but he knows because he's touched it and he can express it, not verbally, but by maybe stroking the fur of the teddy bear. So we know the same thing, we have the same knowledge, but we express it differently. And the same goes for agency, which is often assigned and recognized in people who act according to these same ableist principles of logic and rationality and coherent speech. Whereas some people with intellectual disability or acquired brain injury or neurodegenerative diseases, such as dementia, might use types of knowing that are different from what we generally understand as logical and rational. And they have therefore historically been excluded from a lot of domains in society, including education and research. There is increasing research about how to include people, including nonverbal people, into research. Some methods that are used include photo voice, where participants can use an image to express an idea or a feeling. Pictograms, where researchers use images to communicate with participants, And also, which I find very interesting, dyadic interviewing, where you would interview a participant who's, for instance, nonverbal, but then next to that person is a trusted guardian or parent or caregiver, and they can actually answer the questions for that person. So you can already see that there might be a bit of a power dynamic there. So it is it's kind of a dangerous method maybe, but if you apply it, hopefully mindfully, then it could also just be the only way to really include nonverbal people into your research, but it is difficult. So in inclusive research, basically, it's not about trying to assimilate marginalized people or your target demographic into the status quo of the academic world. It's about reflecting on how research is typically done and how it could be changed in order to become more accessible. And we need to learn from those groups and kind of break down those barriers that we have, and create interdependent and reciprocal research that benefits everyone involved and not just the researcher. But we'll talk a bit about that later. But you want to share something about your experiences with school?
Yes.
Your special education?
Yes.
Ja.
Experience. Ja, dat komt omdat ik net het ding weg.
Okay.
Sorry,
I will talk something. When I noticed I was walking through this building with Leslie, I saw, well, it's in a big city. Well, special education is mostly located not in big cities. It's located in forests, in grass. It's like very green environment. It's nice. It's cute, but very, very, very protective. And my school was also located in forests. It was in Huizen. That is like a very greeny environment of the Netherlands. And it was surrounded by in forest were wood, hay, and it was like a highway that separates our school to the whole society. So we're now. I'm not going to say we're locked away. That's very hard to say about that. But it was very protective to protect us from the outside world and to protect the outside world from us. When someone was going to take a stroll with the wheelchair, the teacher was saying, no, you're not allowed back to school grounds. And yeah, we're talking about people who are from, well, there was also a primary school, but secondary school people were like between 12 and 18 years old. So it's hard to say to someone who is in a puberty to say, or in like teenage things to say, you're not allowed to go to the school grounds. It was very hard. Let me look. Yeah, we're not allowed to use the water kettle because we can burn our hands to it. Well, yeah, that's a possibility, but I have a water kettle at home, so why? And we're not allowed to be obstinate or angry or to be like a normal teenager. When there was like a conflict, the teacher was saying to us, you guys, we're swiping the whole schedule away from school and we're going to talk about it like 2 hours. Well, that's very nice, a therapy session, but yeah, we're in the school and we have to learn English or Dutch or biology and not to learn to talk the whole time. But yeah, sometimes it was nice. Avoid math or biology or history. We use it also. Now let me look. And yeah, well, I was lucky. I was lucky to be in the normal section of the school. In kind of, yeah, wait, when you say it's about normal. Because I was taught Dutch, English, history, math, music, all the school subjects. But when you are in the other section of the school, those things were not learned to you. My ex-boyfriend was in the normal, was in the other section. It sounds like the normal or normal sounds weird, but they don't courses didn't exist there. There was like, okay, English, Dutch, well, you don't need that. You're gonna work in the garden the whole day, so you're not you're not used. You're not going to be used to Dutch, to practice English, Dutch, history, and there was like I was told to him and to other friends of mine, well, you're dumb. Yeah, well, then the teachers were not saying the word dumb. That's very hard. The word you're not smart enough. That was all. That was used. And what also I saw on the school was you're not allowed to talk about your feelings. When I was hand in hand with Lars, they said, "Oh, no, that's not allowed." So okay, I'm not allowed to be a normal teenager. And think about your teenage time. The hormones are everywhere. You're like very hormonal, and you're not allowed to walk hand in hand or give each other a kiss on the cheek. No, there was they were very protective of us. So when I was finished with high school, I was going to the MBO. Yeah, thank you. And then everything was different. There was like people with scooters. There were drugs on the school grounds. There was smoking. There was bullying. Everything was different. And there was, the protection was gone. I experienced very much support in the secondary system of the school, and that was gone. That was gone. When I had a trouble with something, someone or something, they said to me, "Okay, well, that's your problem. You're 18 years old. Go do it yourself." And I was okay. I was so accommodated about to walk to my teacher for everything. And to tell them everything, and then I was okay. Well, that's for me. The languages were going a bit up, and I have to be more independent, and also I think I was cool. I was a girl again. So away with all those talking about medical stuff, as was back on Twilight or talking about TV shows. And well, I was a girl. I am a girl, but I was okay. It's very strange of me to talk about those subjects. And the MBO is like you have to be. You have a diploma to enter it. So if you don't have a diploma, you are going to work on a workshop.
Special working.
The special workplaces. Protective. Yeah, thank you for your vision. There was the gap was very big. I noticed the gap was very big. Overstimulating events, crowded classrooms, everything was different for me and for my fellow classmates. We noticed the whole school thing was not a problem. The subjects, that's you have to learn it. So I was in the normal section of the school. So I was. They said to me, "Okay, you're smart enough." But the whole school thing, the whole school stuff thing was not a thing. Was not a subject. It was like social thing. That was the most hard stuff. Internships were going wrong, and I'm not the only one who experienced that. We noticed that the gap is too big. But you go from a class from 12 people to with a class from 30 people or more. With no taxi who drives you to school and back. No, you have to go. You do it by yourself. So yeah, that was hard. You see a picture on it. I see. Everyone that I'm talking about is the Disney, like the very fairy tale ponds. Is like the Disney pond. I call it. Very safe, nice, sweet. And no distractions or any dangerous stuff, and that's full of sharks. And that was what it feels. Oh, that's full of sharks. And sometimes I thought, is it not better to combine it? To have a pond with sharks. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. Yeah, when I do this experience with Leslie, this research, my family members told me, "Oh my God, you're doing something useful again," because the name students, the name university, it's normal for them. They recognize it, and my other things I do, also experience by experience, they don't recognize it. But we're gonna have a break for now.
Thank you very much, Daniela. So basically what you are telling us is that there's ableism in every system. In the special education section, there's ableism because they pamper you. And in the rest of the world, there's ableism because, yeah, you're not recognized, you can't have support, etc. And then you're bullied, probably. Yeah. So that's a thing, huh? And about the entering academia, we have that staircase as a symbol, which is of course very much a symbol for academia, metaphor, but also something in reality often. Huh? Universities often have huge staircases in front of their entrance, the big entrance. This is something that is described also in a book called Academic Ableism. And they study the architecture of academia, which is staircases, and that symbolizes kind of like that you have to go up or out. Good. What Daniela told you, and then I will release you into the break, was also about language, huh? And how people with intellectual disabilities and special education often are not taught the language. So it's not just a thing of not being able to, it's just also something that is not being offered, which is ableism in itself, causing exclusion from certain type of discourse or of debates, which we have in academia. So basically what we need maybe to do is try to close into each other. And I will show you the slide of the break, but skip quickly, because this will be the exercise we'll be doing, and you can think it over a bit during the coffee break. We're going to ask you to kind of write in plain language an explanation of one of these concepts, one that fits you best. And preferably work in groups, but maybe you want to do something else than your neighbor, I don't know. All is permitted. We have very few time for that, so I already prepare you a bit. And with that, I release you, hop into the coffee break. Okay. Time's up, so we will start discussing this. We're gonna start here. Okay, I'll give you the mic and you. Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. So we chose the term life course perspective, and we have 4 phrases that we hope help to make the term more accessible. One is cradle to grave. Another is old age does not start at 65. Another is learning, working, caring should not be limited by age limits. And another is life course, work and income all your life impacts on your pension. So there are some of the ways we would try to convey the meaning of life course.
I will go to our judge. Explanation, but is it the explanation or is it some sentences?
Yes, I think there are sentences, but they are meant to explain. But maybe we have fallen short.
No, it's okay. I
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Next table, I'll just go here.
So we chose ageism. So having a negative attitude or negative image on someone based on the age the person has, and the outcome is like being disliked. People don't like you, or you're not invited to participate, which is exclusion. You're treated differently. You have the feeling you do not count.
Very good. Who can I give the mic? Oh, but it's not a problem. Or is it the same explanation?
We had a process, and actually Vera at the end came. So maybe I just read the very last one. The definition we gave, right, the first one of them was treating people not nicely because of their age. And Vera came with disliking people because they are old or young.
Great. Danielle? Good. Yeah. Now the judge agrees and says it's plain language enough. The next one, who wants to?
I'm going to start with it. I brought this topic on the table and I start. Yeah. Unfortunately, we talk about environmental press. So yes, we try to do this, and the point is, we looked at the whole model where the environmental press is in. So it's environmental press and it's personal capacity. So it's not just one, it's one side of a model. So we talked about the model, but anyway, to understand the model, we came to the point that I always tell my students, which is complicated to understand this model without individual disability, to understand this model, and they fail. So how to explain it to them? And I explained it with a sentence: strong people can open heavy doors. So the heavy doors is environmental press. And you have a great sentence here. Environmental press is barriers that cause the person stop doing some things they want to do.
Right. Going to see the judge? Yeah, I have something to say about it. Well, first of all, good.
Metaphor.
I can imagine.
Or would it be?
We have an example, or not for this one, not for this one.
We have the word fire door.
Ja.
Fire door.
Ja. Toen letterlijk een deur.
Oh, okay.
So letterlijk so for physically difficult to open door.
Yes.
And some people can, and
Okay, then I understand. Yeah, then I understand.
That's a missing.
A tip for future references, maybe when you describe it to someone with an intellectual disability, draw it.
do that next time.
Yeah, draw it.
Next workshop we'll do draw your concept.
Yeah.
What can I give the microphone?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we also chose ageism, and we define it as when an older person is treated badly because of their age. For example, picturing an old man with a cane, which is not true for every old man.
Yeah. Well, she's nodding.
Yeah, very good. Very good example. I can see it right in front of me.
So examples are important, but not too metaphorical. Wants to
Also didn't got the door.
The word well-being, and according to our experience and opinion, like a small group, we found some similar words which can support and support this condition for the person, for the life, for the better life. And for example, we did not do any categorization. What is has like environmental effect or physical effect, and what is the social effect? We wrote only the words. The words was good sleep, good food, and enough money, good financial background, low cost for the living. The good relationship with the friends, with the family members, supportive social life, of course, fun and love, why not? Sunshine, blue sky, and safety life. Thank you.
Okay, a little tip for you guys. The whole explanation was good, but the intro was too long with very long words. You're losing me at one point. Yeah, sorry, I have to be strict.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you all for working with us in this exercise. And it's also very educative for us, specifically because next time we will do the drawing.
Yeah.
Okay, so from here we go to our next topic. Now this is here. Yeah, institutional issues and good practices. And I will give the mic to Daniela. First lesson. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Let's see. Oh yeah, I don't have my own slide for this. This is Daniela's slide, so I forgot to make a slide for myself. So I wanted to talk a bit about how to at least try to do good practice in to counter institutional issues. I'm trying to do research inclusively with an example of my own experience. For instance, about compensation and the idea of reciprocity. So in my personal experience, when doing interviews for a previous job, which was for let me look for the English translation, I guess the health department for the government. And I was interviewing people with intellectual disability about a topic that was very important to them personally. And the thing is, we did compensate them, but there wasn't, I don't know, I don't want to speak too negatively about the health department, but we only were able to give them some gift certificates or gift cards for all of their input and all of their work, which I I don't know, I didn't really like, but I don't know what else to do. So we tried to give them also like resources that would be useful to them personally, so that, you know, that at least we could give something back to them. But we also noticed that they were kind of willing to participate without any compensation because they really thought that this research would benefit them in real life immediately after this research, which of course we know is not true because research and especially then policy implementation are extremely slow. Sometimes nothing happens. So we kind of had to explain that to them, which made me kind of sad as a researcher because that's exactly what happened when we finished this research that people were so passionately involved with. It was supposed to go to Parliament where people would talk about it, and that never happened. And now we have this super right-wing government that's never going to pick up our documents. And I know that sometimes the report that we made is spread in healthcare organizations, so I'm hoping that they might implement something on their own. But it's kind of heartbreaking to think about all those people that were so hopeful. It's getting me a little emotional. They were so hopeful because they were so happy that someone was listening to them for once, because it was, you know, this inclusive thing that doesn't happen that much, and finally hoping for a big change, and that just never happened. I'm still hopeful that it will happen someday, but I think it's going to take a really long time. So that's why I think it was good practice of us to really think, like, how can we support them now? In terms of finding them these resources that they could use in the moment, and at least really explain to them that nothing might change, but their input is still valuable to us, and also, you know, just listen to their stories, which is in itself already really nice for a lot of people to at least be recognized by somebody. So I guess that would fall under good practice, just because there's not an official protocol for it. We had to sort of come up with that on our own. We didn't have to do that, but we wanted to. We really wanted to make sure that it wasn't just about this kind of knowledge extraction without anything in return. And it really, I don't know, it really did feel like it was kind of this tokenism that, you know, it kind of checks off an inclusion box, but it doesn't really do anything. So I think in practice, what is actually needed would be reiterative research, because we have also, after the research was done, it was done. And I have no idea, you know, if these people even read the report or has someone that maybe could translate the report for them in plain language, or, you know, go through the report with them and show them, you know, oh, look, there, your quotes is in there, your input is in there. We don't know because there was no follow-up. And so I think reiterative research is important, where you revisit or constantly involve your target demographic, and not just go sort of in and out and then that's it. I think it's important to prevent that inclusive research from, you know, becoming just something you can pat yourself on the back for. And this happens a lot in research among any marginalized community, really. And instead, it should be interdependent and reciprocal. And that's really, really difficult to achieve. We also struggle to make this research inclusive because there are no protocols for it, also not from the Open University. And so there were kind of limited funding options from the university. So we kind of started looking for grants in the beginning, which was also complicated. And sometimes I've even noticed that grants that want to give opportunities to people with disabilities, they exclude academic projects. Maybe that's just my speculation, because they don't see the immediate merits of an academic project, because they do understand that this is a kind of a slow institute that doesn't give any concrete, you know, results, and that is kind of far removed from these real life issues, which maybe is fair. So also finding someone with the right set of interests and skills and enough time proved also difficult, since people with intellectual disability don't typically work in research. So there's this chicken and egg story. Or if they do have the right skills and interests, they are already incredibly busy, because once there's someone that's suitable to work on this, everyone wants to work with that person because they already know that person. Yeah. On the right side, there's Mark Koning, who is also a co-researcher and expert by experience. And he is incredibly busy. He works on a lot of different projects for inclusive research. And we've also discussed sometimes, like, do you feel like maybe you've become this kind of token for inclusivity? Yeah. But I'm happy for him that he has a lot of work. That's good. So also, oh yeah, I have here, we are very lucky with Daniela, who I knew from the previous study that I did. She already had experience being an interviewee for research, so she did know a little bit about research, and she's trained as an expert by experience. So she doesn't have the quote unquote right diploma or whatever for a university, but she has this absolute fountain of knowledge that is extremely useful for our research. And involving her in the research required a lot of goodwill, both from her organization and our department. I also know from experience that not every healthcare organization allows these kinds of things. They might underestimate their own clients, for instance, their abilities, or just find it too complicated and not worth it. Or they, and this is not their fault, they're just too understaffed to kind of coordinate this sort of cooperation. And so we're also very lucky with AMReport. Yeah. So that's what we really need, unfortunately, is a lot of goodwill and luck. And in the end, we were able to finance Daniela's involvement because she receives disability benefits, which lowers the costs of the university, which is good for us, but it's kind of complicated for her, which she will now talk about.
Yes. Yeah, I receive a disability benefits that called Wajong in Holland. Yeah, they are a blessing and disguise. They are a blessing and a curse at once, because it's nice to receive a bag of money to do, and you can do nothing for it. So I can do this kind of stuff, or I can sit on the couch watching Netflix. It's also possible, but I'm not like that type of girl. Yeah, there are a lot of strings attached. The rules are very complicated. I work at the study. What's the middle?
Oh, voting booth?
Yeah, the voting booth for the Netherlands last year. And yeah, you receive some money for it to be participating on that. And I was so hoping, oh my God, the money did not have to be on 180 euros, because if I'm above that, they are saying, okay, that's good. We're shorting your income on the benefits. Yeah, that's not very nice. Yeah, there are very many rules and laws, and the thing is, they're so complicated that sometimes I'm thinking, and I'm not the only one who's thinking that. I will stay put. I will be on the couch watching Netflix because that's the better thing. Because if I do some work stuff, yeah, it's not good for my income. That's that point. Yeah, it's safe to stay in the benefits to do something, because everyone is afraid to lose their benefits. And yeah, that sounds nice. So stay in the cocon of benefits. But yeah, well, I'm not that kind of girl. So the benefits are okay, and I got some money from AMReport, like a very daily compensation stuff. It's like 8 euros at each day. Well, I can go to McDonald's with that money. And there are very pros and cons to this research with Leslie. Oops, what you see on the PowerPoints. The network opportunities, for example, now well, to be here is in a good network opportunity for me. This is the first time I'm in the university fields, so woohoo, nice. And yeah, well, it sounds very inspirational but this research. I hope we're going to make a very big change in the new movie industry. Sorry. It is a very important subject for me and for my fellow intellectual disability people. So yeah, I'm doing that. The money is not, yeah, it's everything, but not everything you do is you do it for money. And I feel so much like part of the society to do this. Yeah, what I talked earlier, people are seeing me for the whole person. Finally, because I do this. I'm not saying that I also feel the same, but well, sometimes it feels nice to do this kind of stuff. How sadly it sounds. Yeah, but there's also a con. Yeah, the money stuff. Unfortunately, there is a big gap between our money what we're getting from it, and I'm not. Yeah, when we're finished this project, I'm not getting a title of it. Leslie is a PhD degree after this research, and I'm back at expert and experience girl, and that's okay. But it feels like a fair, yeah, it's a pity that I'm, yeah, yes, that happens, and maybe I get a lot of less recognition of it than Leslie gets. Good. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And actually, the photograph is precisely such a moment. It's like Leslie already said, Mark Koning with Mirjam Zaafsma, and Mark Koning was co-researcher for her PhD project. And this is the moment where she gets her PhD title and he doesn't. So we have to figure out ways to kind of, yeah, have maybe a degree in being a researcher at the very least. Because, yeah, it's learning on the job and people learn so much. We see people grow because they get in touch with all these theoretical concepts, but also getting out of their cocoon, as you call it. So, yeah, we should figure out a way which is beyond the tokenism. So, but time, yeah, we're academe and crypt time is sometimes difficult to combine. We need to, although the grant offices apparently consider us too slow, so slow with results. But we want to go to the final exercise, which would be a wrapping up exercise. And basically, well, we are behind schedule. We were counting kind of like 15 minutes for you to kind of discuss this amongst your table. I think you can turn your flip chart paper. Does that work, or do you want a new one? Yeah, that works. Then you can use any kind of format, make a mind map, or
We have enough.
we have enough. Huh? We can easily distribute new ones. So you start discussing, we can distribute new ones. We counted like 15 minutes for you guys to figure this out. So I think it will then be 4 or 5 minutes past 4. That would be already after the break. So maybe we make this 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we use another 10 minutes to discuss what you figured out and the whole thing and what you learned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I will set a timer. Karin told me that. There's a lot of discussion and it's very active, hard work being done here. Which is great. Brain, burning brains. I hear your brains are burning. Okay, that's good. So this time I can go the other way around. We just, we'll start discussing.
I've made the map here of everyone's thoughts, and now I don't understand my own thoughts. So I'm trying my best. I think what we said was in terms of inclusive and how would you implement inclusive, there's obviously all the different ways and you want to be aiming to address and include people in terms of funding, in terms of recognition, like you've discussed. So there's lots of different ways, but in terms of implementing in the project, we've got points around really setting expectations from the beginning, understanding people's expectations, understanding people's motivations, what levels do they want to influence, what impact do they want to have as individuals, as a group, and being honest as researchers about how much influence you do have in the policy space. And all of this needs to be done constantly, so constantly reevaluating it because human relationships change all the time, projects change. Considering the power dynamics between different people and ways to potentially redress those power dynamics, but also accepting you can't always, and everyone sees them differently too. So that's this reflexivity piece. And setting values and working with those values. So Helen made a really good point about you can't always see how a project's going to go as a researcher. And so sometimes it's not easy to manage expectations in that way, but you can be sure what your working values are. And you can bring those out during each discussion and ask everyone to comment on them and see if those have changed. And then we've talked about some of the challenges of implementation, but I know we don't have a lot of time, so I might.
Well, thank you very much, and especially also the point where you say the power disbalance is very interesting. And I know that Miriam said, no, it was not a project. What was her name from the Cabrio?
Funny?
No, well, a researcher in disability studies in the Netherlands investigated inclusive projects with also a co-researcher with experience. And they developed a method to start up your project and to kind of investigate these imbalances and what do you need to do to kind of like, for example, take time or discuss the time and the pace of your research project. And also, well, all kinds of exercises that include more other forms of communicating, like drawing and etc. and taste, maybe touch. So yeah, very good one. I'll go to the next table. Okay.
Yes, so we have several ideas here. I think a lot of them were already said today during different presentations, such as participatory methods of designing even the questions of the project or of the research, participatory methods in gathering data and in analyzing data. Then another piece was about older people being, or like a different kind of people, in our case, maybe older people, being part of the academic departments, part of like the staff, part of the projects, but also that this shouldn't be kind of a top-down rule, or that some of us agree that it's not maybe the best to set another rule because we have so many rules and bureaucracies already. And then I personally think we should change the values behind our, I don't know, projects and in academia for these things to happen more naturally and not by top-down rules. Yeah, and then we have some words such as different subgroups, pluralism, community, but I don't really know how to put this in an argument.
That's already a lot. Okay. Thank you. That's already a lot. So wonderful. And especially also kind of like from the start, all the way is what we hear sometimes. Inclusive all the way. So from the beginning, including the development of the research questions, or restructuring the research questions and the aims of the research based on what you find. And also the methodologies. For example, Mark Koning once was participating in kind of analyzing data, and he found this way of using post-its that worked very well from professor to everybody. And that's where they found each other to work in this new kind of other way that came, by listening to each other, was developed from there. Okay, thank you. And the next group.
I want to add something to what Petra said, that we don't, I think it should be something that comes up like natural, not top down. And we were thinking one of the ways that we can do this actually is by raising awareness among like researchers that, okay, you have to have inclusive, or not have, but it's good that you have some kind of inclusive research and not focus on just one target group and have all types of people included in your research. So I think that just talking about it or raising awareness is really important. And I actually like added that because I'm coming from engineering world, it's most of the time not really inclusive. It's like people are doing some research or some stuff because of the sake of, for example, technology, or the sake of like transportation, as I'm in it. And it's not really like focusing on people who are using it. It's just about the sake of technology or something like that. And then we were thinking that what we can do is that to make it like somehow mandatory to have different target groups. When you are applying for the funding, you have something about different types of people in your funding. So you get idea from everyone, not just one group. And then also about the ethical, we were thinking that the ethical bureaucracy is like really hard. When you want to include people, for example, who have dementia or some kind of intellectual disability, then it's really hard. And most of the time, the research is done by proxy, like with a caregiver or children or someone else, and not the person, her or himself. So we were thinking also there should be the ethical bureaucracy should be also accessible for researchers to make it like easier to include everyone in the research, not just like one target group. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I know in the Netherlands, when you apply for a grant at Zonneweg, you have to also consider the inclusivity already of your research group, but that's only for health, so not other types of research, which is also something that we want to break down, like the walls of, for example, humanities, why not inclusive? And mathematics, why not inclusive? So technology is a very interesting one because, of course, technology and the body kind of correlate. And then you think of the normal body only, then it's off. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, the next group. Who will take? Next group.
We developed a inclusive gerontology utopia. Impossible in the Western academic world that we know, but we can imagine. So we need to consider various aspects. For example, language, that it should be inclusive in all its ways, verbal, non-verbal, and in all stages of the research, from the design to the dissemination and policy practices, we need to think about how to communicate this research. We need to consider diversity, of course, and practice epistemic justice in our research. We need to be reciprocal, consider the reciprocity aspect. Daniela was talking a lot about that, like who wins and how do we share the benefits of the research. We need to think about a methodological design that from the beginning to the end considers everyone. We need to create partnerships, but we don't really have the tools and education for that right now. We need resources also for this inclusive practice. And of course, we need a whole new ethical frameworks that are not there yet. So a lot to imagine. Thank you.
Thank you. You're basically also talking about breaking down walls and tearing down staircases. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. There we go. It's like the spot to avoid. So who can I give the microphone?
Okay, I can start. So the first question, we have a guideline of six things to say. The first one is that we ask ourselves, well, what is gerontology? So we have a lot of sub-disciplines in that, like social gerontology, geographical gerontology, and so on and so on. So the first idea was we need a little bit to decolonize gerontology. Like, so that's what you said, or we need to change the mindset. Otherwise, we will always do the same. We can call it inclusive. We can call it target group focused or anything else, but it won't change anything unless there's another kind of mindset. But we didn't know. No, we didn't discuss what the mindset might be. But then, thanks to Helen's slides in the morning, we put the second guideline: no research without older people, or no research about aging without aging people. So, and then we had the idea, are the best gerontologies those who are already older? And that is close to that idea that we need a coherence between research, lived experiences, and professional experiences, something like that. And then the fourth one is listening to the voices and experience and platforming them. Mm-hmm. So the idea behind that is going towards the ability of the people to represent themselves. And number 5 is there's no one-size-fits solution to inclusiveness. So I think all of that, all the contradictions, all the tensions, they are needed for the process. There's no harmonization of any idea. Also of that of the mindset and the decolonization. This is just that this is one of the situations that we have to deal with. And the last one, we need the life to power dynamics. That sounds great, or?
Just one sentence. To be alive to the power dynamics that are always present when we have people who are coming together in a spirited partnership, wishing to work together and to build friendship and connection. And sometimes that can make us slow to recognize the difficulties that emerge when there are differences in terms of knowledge, credentials, resources, and so on. And I think maybe sometimes particularly with concerned about hurting people's feelings and all, and putting those things clearly on the table. So finding ways of doing that in ways that are respectful, growthful, and not silencing. And remembering that silencing can go in different directions. So they were the kind of thoughts I had when I said we all need always to be alive to power dynamics.
Thanks. And then our last question was, why are you asking us that?
Awareness.
Can I make a brutal move?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we also have a final speaker still, so I
Exactly.
think that everybody
break.
needs a coffee break. So either we do it very, or just wrap it up now as a courtesy to the final
To the
speaker.
final
as well.
speaker, huh? Yeah. Maybe.
By the dinner, we will
Exactly. And maybe we take pictures of your huh? Yes. There's pictures going to be made and shared, and you can continue this discussion wherever online during the coffee break. So I would say chop chop, off you go.
Okay, everybody, let's try to continue and maybe come a little bit closer to the speaker.
Sorry.
We will not use the microphone. So if you come a bit closer, then we should be fine.
It's very safe here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I will.
Vroeger heb ik lesgegeven op de middelbare school. En als mensen dan heel erg vervelend waren, ja. Dat is ook.
Good afternoon to you all once again. Everybody, yeah, so happy to be behind you once again. And we are.
Oopsie.
Sorry.
We are going into the last of today's program, which will be delivered by Thijs from the Maastricht University. And we will dive into yet another tricky question as culture or nurture or individual or society or individual and spatial infrastructures. And I'm really looking forward to hear if there are any resolutions to these issues. So the floor is yours.
Can I still go? Okay. Thank you for the invitation to tell something for your very interesting network about this topic. I think I will touch upon some topics that you already discussed today, like participation, epistemic injustice, that kind of stuff. But I will go through it and maybe from another angle. If you really think while I'm talking this is bullshit, just say so immediately. I think we can talk about it. But there is a kind of storyline, and I hope we can have a discussion as well. This is more or less the line. First, like, how come that we are so stuck with individualistic framings of health and also health inequalities, which is completely not about, say, caring communities. And also, as long as we are stuck in this framing, I think it's also difficult to actually conceptualize caring communities. But I like to go through it quite quickly, but I think it's quite urgent to really realize how deep this way of thinking is in our minds and brains. And maybe we think a little bit differently, but when you talk to policymakers or people in the field of elderly care, it's all about healthy lifestyle still. And they know that's not a solution, but still it is. And I think it has to do with this. Then I like to say something about spatial shaping of caring communities. So how can we then turn the tide? Maybe a solution. And then also in line with this about participatory city making, because after all, we have to do it together. But then how do we do that? And I also would like to tell something about how we as researchers do it. Because we now have a kind of, the last 10, 15 years, we did a kind of participatory ethnographic approach, and we developed a university with the neighborhood, a kind of platform for long-term collaboration, and I can tell something about it as well. Okay. Okay. This individualistic framings of health and also health differences, I think that's the topic that I like to illustrate on, health inequalities. I think, say, European welfare states often have thought that there were no health inequalities anymore because we had welfare states, you know. So the biggest inequalities would be gone. And then in 1980, there was a Black report in the UK, and it showed there were huge health inequalities in England. So many European countries were in shock
And they developed a large policy and research agenda to actually study these health inequalities. And they also did, policies, interventions, research, a kind of cycle of trying to explain it and also try to decrease these kind of health inequalities. But then what you see is what I think developed for the last 50 years is a kind of top-down, we call it a top-down classification machinery to reduce health inequalities. And it is a machinery which actually constructs health inequalities. It makes health inequalities, makes it worse, so to say. And because what we saw is that there was lots of social epidemiological research, which was funded by funding bodies and by policymakers. It resulted also again in policies and in interventions and in programs, and also in the accountability structure. And in this cycle, in the end, we ended up with, say, we have stupid, fat, non-autonomous risk groups, and they should change their lives. So it's not about caring communities at all. It's about specific risk groups, and they should change because their behavior is very problematic. They are not able to take care of themselves. They are not resilient. They do not have the skills to take care of themselves. So they should change so that they can live an autonomous life, so that they can reach vitality, etc. So the whole machinery is not, this research policy intervention machinery is not about developing caring communities at all. It's about, making specific risk groups, and they should change. And to show you how that is done, I will show you some quotes of the research and the interventions, which is a kind of, from my perspective, shocking, but still. So in social epidemiological research, which is published in scientific journals with high impact factors, we see the kind of things like higher socioeconomic groups valued health more than did lower socioeconomic groups. I'm not sure who believes this, but it's written down in a high impact paper. We see the kind of expressions, and this is results from statistical analysis. Low socioeconomic status individuals are more hostile than high socioeconomic status individuals, more conservative, less open to change than high educated people. So when you do this type of analysis, you construct different groups, not caring communities. You make differences. This type of research is then translated, of course, to handbooks in the field of health promotion. We analyzed handbooks that are very much used even today in higher education and universities. And we here find the kind of things like, according to the scarcity theory, these individuals, these low socioeconomic status individuals, have limited mental or cognitive bandwidth. This limited bandwidth often results in decisions and choices that favor short-term benefits because the long-term disadvantage of, say, like shorter life or a healthy lifestyle are pushed into the background. So they say, okay, people have lots of stress because they have difficult life circumstances. And because of this stress, they have a limited bandwidth. So they try to be compassionate. But we do not say this from lawyers or academia and stress, academics and stress, that we do not say they have a lot of stress, there's limited cognitive bandwidth. So it's a weird way of reasoning in a way. They also say things like, the person does not recognize that his or her behavior has negative consequences for others or for herself. Several defense mechanisms are at play, like refusal or excuses can be seen. So if people do not follow up these advices like more exercise, healthy living, blah, blah, then you say that these defense mechanisms, they do not recognize what is really true and what is really important. This type of things are written in handbooks in the field of health promotion, nowadays used. This is how we train generations of professionals in the field of health promotion. I find it shocking. Long-term interventions then are, of course, based on this type of research and also affected by the professional training of the people who develop these interventions. This is from an intervention in low-income neighborhood with lots of diversity, where people discover that especially some groups with some migration backgrounds were suffering more from obesity. And then you see in the annual reports of the interventions things like, for the non-Western target group, cultural differences play an important role in the development of overweight or obesity. In the Turkish, Moroccan, and Antillian culture, for example, being overweight is a sign of prosperity, and they often have a different diet. I'm not sure how you feel about it. They write it down bluntly, like say there's something like deeper culture. They all love sugar, you know. It's kind. Yeah, but it's written on paper. It's serious work. It's part of the how they account for the results of their things. These non-Western migrants lack Dutch language skills and have very little knowledge about healthy food. You know? And of course they say this because when they account for the success of their interventions, we see in all these annual reports things like many efforts have been made to reach the parents orally by letter, and they have been called by phone. Nevertheless, the turnout was disappointing. The organizers have called the parents on every meeting. A contract has even been drawn up. So the parents have to promise that they bring the children to the training or the soccer play every Wednesday. The turnout gradually decreased. The turnout was only partly successful. People often don't show up. And then you think when you have a long-term intervention of 20 years, at some point you'll think like, what do you think at any point about why people do not show up? You know, if you are in love and you go after a person and he or she says, no, 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 then at some point you think, well, maybe stop. Do it differently. Do something else. But here, this is kind of, and I think this is all kind of expressing this highly individualistic framing of health, which then results in a kind of reasoning in which we say we have different types of groups, and some people perform the correct individual health behavior, and others are not able to do that. So they, because of low income, low education, migration background, whatsoever, they are considered to be the kind of individuals that we cannot trust that they can take care of themselves. And then we go after them and we like to help them and we develop interventions and they should change and we whatever. But the whole notion of caring communities is not entering the field, so to say. And I think it's important to realize this before we speak about caring communities, because this is what we should not do. This is really, we should keep in mind that we should not at some point go back to this type of framing. And I see currently there are lots of healthy neighborhoods kind of projects. And when you take a very close look, let's see, in these healthy neighborhoods, caring neighborhoods, you often see a sum of kind of lifestyle intervention, lifestyleish interventions. We do it a little bit participatory, but in the end, we like that. We want that all people do exercise. So we have an agenda. Institutions still have an agenda. And what we see in this, say, 40, 50 decades of studies in the field of, say, social health inequalities, we see that the problem was shifted also from inequalities and relationships towards the individual bad behavior of some groups. It was not about inequality at all. We see a statistical clustering of groups and very much a labeling in which some groups do it well, the high socioeconomic status groups, highly educated people do well, low educated people with not a lot of formal diplomas, they cannot take care of themselves. They do not live a healthy life. There's a lot of deficit thinking. It's always about what people cannot do and not about what people have to offer to others. So maybe people smoke, maybe the case, but maybe they care a lot for other people, you know? But it's always about what people cannot accomplish. And you do not see the humor of people, the joking, that they are able to put things in perspective, that they are resilient, even people with low incomes, they can do things very well. it's not seen and not noticed in this type of literature. It's very much about intervening and control, sending. So it's completely, opposite this ideal of participation. But it's also interesting that powerful actors in the field of, say, care, healthcare, health promotion, healthy cities, say tobacco industry, food industry, state, they are not addressed at all. Professionals do not learn how to deal with tobacco industry, but they do learn how to make an intervention for individuals in low income groups so that they should change their behavior. So it's a very selective focus. And we call it also epistemic injustice. This machinery of policy making, research is creating epistemic injustice because over and over again you say, low people with not a lot of formal diplomas, we cannot trust them that they know by themselves what is important when it comes to care, health, whatever. It's, So we do have to do it differently. Questions so far? Some people say I exaggerate, but
Maybe just one mentioning, I was wondering how much the fact that there is a big industry that is also playing games into that issue of health, being it agro industry, tobacco industry, alcohol industry as well, how much it impacts as well.
Yes, it does because, but then it's more not so much about individual risk, but more about individual joy or individual choice. Industry. People should have the possibility to choose by themselves. Yeah. But then the professionals say we agree, but only people with a lot of diplomas, they can do that well. So we have to train the others so that they will be autonomous and also can take care of their own health. So they are funding in a way.
Yeah. But also because then they are battling against regulation. I'm saying so because you have a number of advocacy groups who are actually trying to push for more regulation. Like, let's say, looking at taxation, how you can eventually change the behaviors in that way as well. But it's not a way for the industry, and they are trying to deconstruct as well. How these NGOs are trying to change the game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I think I find it kind of striking that lots of these advocacy groups, they do not stem from the professionals in health promotion. Professionals in health promotion, they are always busy with individuals who have to change. But the moment a very important and powerful actor comes in play and say, oh, sorry, please wrong for me. This is a bit cynical, but I think that's the case. Okay, public space and social relationships. 3 years ago, we published a book, Healthy City. It's in Dutch, I'm sorry. And I will tell something about what we wrote in this book, which is based on our research. It's very much inspired by the work of Jane Jacobs, you know her. It's she who wrote about, say, how modernist and very functional city planning, like here we have, say industry, and here we have schools, and here we have leisure, and here we have living. And so this is how we design the city with the different compartments, and you have highways separating the different things. And with your car, of course, you travel from the one area to the other. But that means also that, say, the city is not very lively anymore. And that, the liveliness of especially the places where people live is not very, very good. And then you take a look at, say, many urban, suburban neighborhoods nowadays, you see that kind of flats and apartments, and here and there little play fields for children. But many people say, we do not know each other anymore because they do not meet, because there are no little shops, there are no churches are closed, no small soccer fields because we only have big soccer fields, no small shops because we have big malls. And, it's people do not meet anymore. So the liveliness also these places has decreased a lot. And it's why I think Nora Hertz wrote this book, The Lonely Century. And I think what she wrote, and also the Bowling Alone of Putnam, who says that people more and more play, say, things that you play with other people. Nowadays, people do it alone because the normal idea that you have, say, fun or you spend time with colleagues because we have a flexible labor market, so we do not have colleagues anymore. Family is flying over the world, friends are coming and going, and in your neighborhood you do not know anybody, so at the end you end up bowling alone. I think that's a kind of effect of how we design the cities and how we design villages and neighborhoods.
I mean, but isn't this also like white middle class picture of the working time, for example? Like we don't have colleagues, but people working in the factories probably would have colleagues.
Yeah, but even nowadays, many people have, say, flex jobs, have 3 jobs to have an income anyway. So then you do not have a lot of time for your colleagues anymore. So when you think of public space, then we conceptualize it mostly as a social sewage system. And we use the metaphor of sewage system because this sewage system was very effective in creating a kind of social society, because all these pipes, underground pipes, helped very much to protect us against all kinds of epidemics. So the quality of life for everybody became better. It was also very collective. It was public. You cannot have your own individual sewage system. That's kind of simply possible. So it is a very nice way of thinking about public space in the sense it must be public, it must be collective, it must be shared, but it must be above the ground. So we turn it upside down, that all these pipes and all these connections, also connections between poor and rich, and so it's equalized also, the sewage system. It brings health for everybody, and not for one specific risk group or something like that, but for everybody. And when you put it upside down, you think, okay, let's take a look at a city to see how our village, how all the connections are made and how do people get in touch with each other through streets, parks, meeting places, all kinds of other stuff. Places where you walk your dog. So it's important to take a look at the spatial social infrastructure in the city and how people simply meet. Where do they do that? And how are these infrastructures in different parts of the city? So some neighborhoods are very high income, some are very low income. What do we see there in terms of the social spatial infrastructures in meeting places, the maintenance of roads, parks, or what do we see there? And we think that these structures are very important because they have very many, they pile up functions that contribute to the fact that we care and that we feel vital or that we have good life. It is about trust. If you have streets where you can say hello to anybody else, even though you do not know people by name, it invites you to be kind of friendly. That helps enormously in social safety feeling of people. And feelings of belonging, for instance. So how you organize a street and how you design a street or a square makes a lot of difference. It also, these type of places also help to develop new skills. When you have, say, hybrid meeting places where people can meet and drink coffee, but they also can prepare some materials or they can cook or they can do whatever, then you learn new skills. You're meeting new people. So it's not about the old club, always the club. You get out of your bubbles, so to say. And you can learn new skills and you also can learn new perspectives because sometimes you can have a discussion. And in normal life, sometimes people speak back. If you say something very ridiculous, people can correct you or whatever. So also democracy is taking place there. Democracy also needs a place. Democracy is not in parliament. Democracy needs a place in everyday life. It's an everyday life practice. These places are also important for caring because it is in these places that we care, that we are friendly, that we have a conversation, that we ask, hey, how are you? When I had a dog, my son was 14, 15, 16, and he often did not want what I wanted. So in the morning when I walked the dog, then I said to another person whose name I did not know, but I did know the name of the dog. But I could say, hey, what about your boy? Was he at home this night? Mine wasn't at home. You know, I could share some concerns with kind of familiar strangers, and we had a short chit chat, and I went back to work. It was so this way of letting your dog out, it helped me enormously to keep sane while he was young. So these places are important. These are also places of hope. Like say when you have a neighborhood which is not very high income, and some people do have stress, not a very good life in many respects. And the fact that you have a neighborhood campaign once in a while, or dancing in the streets, or a music festival is also a symbol, like, you know, maybe at some point it can be better. And people need that as well. And some policymakers then say, okay, it should be more structural and not incidental, but that's not true. Incidental things that are good are helping. It's also hopeful. These places are also important because they have fluidity. Let's keep bubbling. You meet rich and poor, do meet in these kind of meeting places where you can do different types of things in the meeting places. And there's also places for democracy, for simply have a conversation like we had in the 19th century in the coffee houses of Vienna. So because that is where democracy basically developed. Doesn't want to go further.
Oh.
Mr. Remote?
Shut.
Not either. Are you still with me?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
But the slides doesn't seem to be left.
I really enjoy the emphasis on social spatial infrastructure, and I completely agree that public spaces are so important, but I also believe that they're important because they're such a site of conflict and contestation as well. Like, it's not all harmonious. Like, parks are so powerful precisely because they are a place, like what Doreen Massey says, that they're a place where we get to truly negotiate what the public is and the diverse uses of them. And I find sometimes with age-friendly work, we create a more harmonious picture of public space that doesn't accommodate all of the difference and the tension, and how important it is to have places for us to negotiate those things, but how even public spaces are always regulated by power and always regulated by things that are appropriate and inappropriate. You know, sleeping on a bench is often viewed inappropriate, even though there's always these rules and tensions, aren't there? Which are very interesting, I think, to go into as well.
Yeah, that's why I also said, why I say it's also a place for democracy. Because democracy is a kind of continuous negotiation about the good life, what's the definition of the public, of the collective, what do we share, what are the unspoken rules of a place, of a society, inclusion, exclusion, who's belonging here, who do we send away. So I think in that sense, we need places to do that. And that is where we learn also the skills to do that, because in this highly individualized society, we may be active on the Facebook, which is either in the bubble or very harsh polarization. But in real life, we often, maybe we have even unlearned to do this kind of negotiation and to also live with the fact that even that compromise, we have to live with compromises as well, you know? It's not all harmonious, it's not all what I want, it's not about individual choice, individual needs, and they will be fulfilled. It's bullshit. I really agree. Now, there's also, though, there's lots of research which backs up this whole idea that social relations also are very important for health and vitality. All kinds of, and thanks to the social epidemiologists, social contacts, they do protect against diabetes, coronary heart disease, depression, loneliness, and also infectious diseases. It's even when people who are very lonely, they have a really bad microbiome. Your guts tell you about the amount of social contacts you have and the quality of the social contacts. So also kissing is very good. Yeah. And I really like to work with people who are in microbiology who tell the story to also sketch the microbiome of city and how these social infrastructures are very important for our microbiological health. You know, it's really interesting. Now, this is, I'm not sure, is one of you coming from Bogota, in Colombia? This is really interesting to take a look because this was one of the cities, of course, Bogota, it was a disaster in the 1990s in terms of air pollution, air traffic deaths. And then they had these mayors who said, you know, we need to think about the city as public space. And in this public, to make it democratic, we need to take care of the people who do not have cars. So we make space for public transport, Transmillennium, from the suburban to the city center, because many people who lived in the slums in suburbs, they worked in the city center. They needed the Transmillennium for transport, so less place for cars, more for public transport. That's a kind of decision that how you think about public space in the city. They made they have car-free Sundays every Sunday. Some roads are closed off, so people can bicycle, can walk, can do all kinds of things. Everybody knows, very nice. They make playgrounds, libraries, public squares. So they have really a kind of idea about to rescue the city. Then you have to think about public space and how you design the city in such a way that also there's space for people, say, living at the outskirts. Maybe what's the time?
5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. This is Suzanne, she's not here.
No.
This is what's okay. From her research, Suzanne from HOMeAGE, she did a study of aging in place, and she did a photo voice experiment, and she showed that, she asked professionals and elderly people to make photos of kind of places in a neighborhood that they felt attached to, that they felt that were important. And the professional said, okay, the care home is very important. So the place for public transport, so there you can take the bus. But the elderly people, they came with kind of pictures like of the graveyard, because that's where all your friends are. Yeah. And this was a place that reminded them of a disco, which was there previous years. So it's a completely different way of valuing places in the city. And this is very professional, of course, very functional. But this is how people value and feel attached. Yeah, feel belong. We did some experiments in participatory city making. I will tell the other way around. Like say, what we did for the last, say, 15 years is that we try to do a kind of participatory ethnographic, long-term relationship, try to build it up with three low-income neighborhoods in the city of Maastricht. And it basically, the people who we spoke to defined our research agenda. The fact that we went to that we started to study public space was defined by them. Because in 2014, we organized a citizen summit, all of the city, and we selected 200 citizens by lottery, and asked them, what do you think is important for health, well-being, care in the city? And they said, most of the people said, you know, I like to participate, I like to help my neighbors, I like to do all kinds of things, but I have one problem. I do not know anybody. I think this is a very good diagnosis. And they came up with the kind of posters. It's here, you can see that say, the neighborhood center comes back. We like to have a care pub, kind of creativity place, so they came up with all kinds of words to diagnose what they would like to have in the city. Because of the three neighborhoods that we work in now were less represented on that citizen summit, we did it again in 2015, then with 100 citizens of these three neighborhoods, also selected by lottery. Outcome the same. We like to care for each other, but I do not know each other. So I thought, this is strange because especially in the street neighborhoods, there was a lot of green spaces. So there's a lot of green. Why do you not use the green to meet, to picnic, to whatever? And then we started a working group with part of the people of the Citizen Summit. And we started investigating with the neighbors, with these citizens, the quality of the green. Now you see, this is the quality of the green.
For soccer.
This. This is a park in a low-income neighborhood. And it shows that, say, the municipality calls it a park because it's very cheap in maintenance because it's one type of grass, 3 types of trees, and every 3 weeks you go with the machine, and that's it. But you can imagine that nobody does anything there. We call it antisocial green, and we try to work to socialize the green. And with a group of citizens, we started that in 2016, and the group is still active now. They do all kinds of things. They revitalize the garden. They do plays for children, pick up litter. But during this experiment, of course, there's a lot of discussion with the municipality because it's their park. They are the owner, and they embrace participation. But still, the question is who's actually owning the park. So if the citizens come with a proposal and they say, moi, then they put the question on the table. Who do you actually represent? Which is a really nasty question. Because they're always complaining about the fact that in these neighborhoods, nobody likes to participate. And when people do participate and they come with a proposal that they do not like, then, hey, what would we represent? So this is kind of, so in the discussions then with the municipality, you have to do political philosophy to come up with a completely other notion of representation. That democracy is not like, say, you have first to collect 1,000 votes of people who say, I'm with you, you know? You have to do it differently. But it's kind of, there are norms for the good design of the park. The citizens like to have a small playground for children because they thought when we have small children, then there will be parents and then, etc. And they had money for it, but then the question is where to place it. And the architect of the municipality, they have a kind of idea that there are norms for good park design, and these norms say you need to have sidelines. It's important to be able to look from here to there. So you cannot have a tree or something in the middle. And also the playground for the children could not be in the middle. For the citizens, they say, yeah, but this is a good place because there's some shadow and some sheltering, and that's important. No, that was not possible, so there was a compromise. So now the playground for children is on a specific place. A walking path is going through the middle. And all the people with the dogs, they go here. Dog says, hey, sand, nice. Yeah. This doesn't work. It also shows, and also for municipality, that's difficult to understand because they have this ideal of participation that people need to take initiative. Bold. And the more initiatives, the better. But what people do here, they do maintenance. They pick up litter. They do everyday kind of mundane maintenance. And that is so important for the quality of the park. So it's not about kind of heroic kind of ideals, but it is about giving water, litter, a tree which is destroyed because some people say to their dog, bite in the tree, but they repair it. So it's also, of course, talking sometimes and making a decision and having a deliberation in the classical sense of democracy. But there's a lot of work is done here. And that's very important, the mundane everyday work of repairing. That is how you make, say, a good and caring city. And in the meantime, they care for each other. Because the people who are working in the garden, they did not know each other beforehand, but now they know here now. So they help each other in the sense you have to go to a general practitioner. I will help you. I go with you. And apart from that, it's not only that they help each other, But now everybody in the neighborhood knows that every Tuesday and every Friday, they are for 3 hours in the garden. So everybody comes by to share a story. All these people who say, I do not know anybody, they know that at some point people are in the garden and we can share their stories with them. So it has a kind of ripple effect. And then you see how social places work. Yeah. Okay. This was the Citizen Summit. Another lesson from the Citizen Summit was that people said to us, we are so fed up that people think, especially professionals and municipalities, civil servants, that in our neighborhood we only like to play bingo. This is a really good observation in a similar way as people say, I do not know anybody. I think this is a research agenda for us. This was a research agenda for us as well, because it's signed to us that people are fed up as being stigmatized as the low-income neighborhood, the low-educated neighborhood, the neighborhood who will never participate, etc., etc. So all this stigma. And by collaborating with them, we try to turn it upside down. And they do lots of things nowadays. Another lesson in the neighborhood was we made films and we did all kinds of things in the neighborhood, but small films about neighborhood life and neighborhood struggles. And during these films, making the scenarios and picking up neighborhood stories, they said to us, people often complain, all these professionals, that they cannot reach us. But I do not even go on holiday. I'm always here. But you and all these professionals, you do not work on Friday. You do not work in the evening, not in the weekend. There's a very abstract email address. And when you go on leave, you do not even give an automatic reply that you are on leave and that everybody takes care, anybody else takes care. So who cannot be reached? The institutions cannot be reached. So then I thought, okay, I will stay here. It was for us an important decision because everybody always, when people interview us about the work, they say, when will you go to the other side of the river? And I said, never. I also will not leave my husband. So I stay because there's a kind of value in staying. That means that we do not work projectified. It's not the project of 4 years, it's finished and we go away. But we stay. Even when we do not have money, we stay. Because it's like you want to show that you care. And we as a university also need to become a part of caring communities and not going in, getting our data, flying back. You have to show another type of face and build up another type of connection. And that's also one of the lessons we had. And maybe a last one is also that we did, because when they said we do not like to play bingo, we said, okay, what do you like? They said philosophy. So, oh, wow, we like it as well. So for 7 years now, we run a monthly philosophy cafe in this neighborhood. It's really successful. And I have the most good conversations there. It's really amazing about all kinds of topics. People come with topics, we do with topics, and it's always with small philosophical introduction, like, discuss today optimism, pessimism. History of philosophy is all optimism, like progress, Hegel, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, harmony. But we also have Schopenhauer, pessimist. But what do you feel? What are your associations? So it's always a little bit of real philosophy, and then people start talking with each other. Great. We also do a health cafe, and the idea is not that we do advices of give information, but that I really believe that all people like to learn something. So we do something, introduce people in the fascinating world of microbes. And we tell about microbes, not me, but my colleagues from microbiology, about bacteria and viruses and animal-human interaction. And we have great pictures and great slides, and people find it fascinating. And it's not because it's a kind of simplistic language, or say, you have to vaccinate, that's it, do as I say so. But that you explain how a body works, what immunity means, how you do it, how it can be built up, how it can be broken down, etc. And we do not give advices, but people are very much fascinated by these things. So It's also hopeful for us because all my colleagues think that it's difficult nowadays in our society that all people are anti-science. I do not believe it at all. It's about how we communicate. So we consider the neighborhood as a knowledge place, as a place where people have lots of knowledge about how public space and social infrastructures are functioning, what they do for your well-being and for your health, and people can tell us a lot about it, and we experiment with people and doing these things, learn about a lot of it. And the laboratory is a knowledge place, I think, and the archive, but also the snack bar is also a knowledge place from my perspective, and also the neighborhood. And I think we need to work with the neighborhood as not as a place of intervention, but as a knowledge place where we can make knowledge together with the neighbor. So, to conclude, to make care communities, we do not do interventions. There are no magic bullets, but it's very much a kind of hybrid, formal, informal practice in which we as researchers also can be part of. I think it's important to focus on place and all the in-between work, so not individuals or risk groups or target groups, but all the in-between connections of very different intensities and qualities and colors or whatsoever, because society is not a sum of individuals, but it's this kind of interplay of all these connections and all these relationships. And I think the contributions of researchers to that is very much a humble one. It's about that you can collaborate, but do not work in terms of interventions or that you know what's important for them or that whatever kind of things. You have to be humble, but also committed for a longer time. So do not go there for a project. It's a kind of instrumental use of neighborhoods, of citizens. So I'm against projects. I think we need to be creative and working around projects. The relationship is more important than the project. That's a kind of how I see it. Okay, thank you.
Was my last question, how to defend this position against policymakers, for example. But that's another probably lecture.
That's not so difficult.
Okay.
You have to do it. Every policymaker speak, they embrace me. Because nowadays everybody's in participation. Everybody says, I do not know how to reach them. Okay, I know. You know? And nowadays, of course, they have made my life hard because we also had sometimes money for 2 years or PhD for 4 years and then suddenly nothing. But I always have time, and some of my colleagues as well. So we always can take care of continuity. But in the end, because now the tide is with us, kind of vocabulary and the hypes are now with us. And now they say, this is really nice. So you can do it. Okay. But I think it's important to reflect on the accountability culture. Because the accountability culture, when they ask you for numbers, success, then you always have to discuss like, how do we define success? How do we define democracy? Do you want votes? How many do you want? Do you want signatures? What do you want? So that's a kind of discussion that you always are, you must be ready to go into the discussions, well, always.
Sorry. Yes. Do we have some questions in the audience? Sorry.
Sorry, I was waiting for Mike. I forgot. No, sorry. Just the last thing that you mentioned there, just about that open language that's there, and that kind of creates an open door. Have you ever seen that kind of working, perhaps in a slightly more cohort way, where it's less helpful than we sometimes think? And I think I'm thinking about a lot of the focus now on co-production, co-design, between method, service use, design, and sometimes you get that superficial bulk of it, and then perhaps that language almost masks some of the issues that are still there. So just to see if you have experience of that.
Yeah, lots of. Lots.
But do you think that sometimes the push towards the participatory elements actually creating more barriers in some ways that mask some of the issues that are not addressed.
Yeah, that's true. And also because it's also not effective. The people do all these particular things, but still they are not really satisfied. Some people didn't show up enough. It's also people complain about the form. It's not actually working. So then you have to discuss it again over and over. But yeah, I think it's always everybody's learning, you know. On the one hand, I say, okay, I'm very happy that the municipality is now in the participatory mode. But now we have to go a step further. You know, it's not only you want to. Often it is that they want to have people participate when they decide when, they decide where, they decide about what. They say, okay, let's turn it the other way around. There's lots of participation already there in society. All these people who take care of their neighborhoods. There is a lot of caring and maintenance and people doing well, taking care of each other, taking care of the street, of the floor, whatever. See it. Have an open eye for what people already do and support it instead of continuously organizing your own party and say you have to go, you have to be in my party, but you will never be at their party. Turn it the other way around.
Yeah.
But also in terms of actually place, I always tell people of the municipality, but also my university. I think because my university owns all the nice historical buildings of Maastricht. So I often said, why do we not buy a simple house in one of the suburbs? We can build there, we can make it into a meeting place. We as a university will learn a lot of it. And you show that you care. Also for the municipality, it's always this nice building in the center. Why not organize your democracy in a different way, also place-based, but then on very many different places. Much more accessible for many people.
I think what you just said there about negotiating the accountability, which is obviously you're trying to measure whatever impact you're having, is that piece of policymakers being accountable to you in terms of how they're following through on different activities and actions, consultation.
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes. Yeah, that's the case. Yeah, but also that in our small community, they now when they say already, you see, you're doing this and this, only when they see me. Well, there's now a completely new neighborhood being developed, so on the development plan and the front is the cover of our book to show that you know. But it's also kind of tricky.
Yeah.
You know? So, but they try well, they do their best, you know. They also have, as policymakers, have also developed in this 40-50-year machinery of constructing unhealthy neighborhoods, etc., and unhealthy risk groups, etc. They also were simply kind of part of this history. Yeah.
It's just to build on what you're saying about the history there, because I absolutely loved your presentation and my brain's still processing it all because it was brilliant in so many ways. But about the history and in these areas where, if you're going to call them neighbourhoods that experience deprivation, they've experienced defunding essentially over time.
Yeah.
Have you had it that they then have, like in my case study, people have a very big distrust of the council because of that lack of funding over time. And as a researcher, where research is always meant to be informing policy and understanding the council and understanding and working with those groups, how have you navigated your relationship with the municipality versus building trust with people, and how do we navigate that? Some community groups want to be autonomous and maybe don't want to feed into the council's plans or policies. They don't want to participate because of historical distrust. How have you kind of come across those things in your work?
Now, at first, I find it amazing. That's also how trusting people actually still are, although a history of deprivation, being mistreated, etc. I think that people often, when they look other people in the eyes, even local politicians or civil servants, people are often always again willing to try again. And I think that is a kind of human thing in a way. When others are showing that they really try to do something good, then people can be honest and say, I do not believe in this kind of things. But it's not like people are that distrusting that they say, okay, I will not do anything anymore with the municipality. So I'm always in a way, and especially because the neighborhoods where we work, they are not only deprived now, but there's even a history, because first they were many of the families in the 1950s, the parents, grandparents, they were living in the city center, and they were moved from the city center to the kind of schools where they were taught how to live in a hygienic way, etc., etc. And when they did well, moved to neighborhoods where we are now. So there's a kind of historical stigma even. But still, I always am surprised about how much willingness there actually is if somebody reaches out. But it is about reaching out. And also to live up on the promises you make. So it's not that when people do not live up to the promise, they say, okay, there we have it again, we know this, we've seen this before. But still, I'm always in the sense that I'm also optimistic that the people really love science. It's not that people are hating science or are anti-science. I do not believe that at all. Also, people who do not vaccinate, they're not anti-science. I think I'm very optimistic about how many people like to learn things, have an open mind. If you are are willing to organize a space in which that can happen, that's also for this trust. And even though people, because that's also, I think, our research style is always extremely participatory and ethnographic. And we always do several types of member checks before we make reports, because I also do studies for the municipality. But so we engage people a lot in saying that they say, okay, this is what I recognize. This is what we see. And that is what's being given to the municipality. Another question? Another one?
Okay. Yes, I'll be quick. Thank you. So I'm here. I was just thinking, since we're here at the Open University, which is an online university, how could an online university become part of the care society? Online, or do we need to find spaces like we have spaces like here, open it up? What should we do in your perspective?
Yeah, to be honest, the digital is not my fault. I think that there should be, because I believe that digital spaces can also be very good. We cannot go back to the area before internet. So there is a digital world, and we have digital communities, and we can make digital connections. And during COVID, we've seen that it was very helpful for many people. So, but I'm not I myself, I'm not on Facebook, not on Instagram, or nothing. So I'm a kind of digital illiterate. But I think there should be opportunities to do something, but I just would not know how and what exactly, to be honest. But I firmly believe in sharing buildings. In what way whatsoever. Like you can, if you have a building, there's space, often it's closed off, I think, in the evening.
So we have to open up our study centers.
Yes, and of course, then you have to be careful, and there's safety, and there's all kinds of things. And that's important as well, because you do not want your students come here and find part of the space destroyed. But at the same time, I think many people are far too careless or beforehand, and you see so many risks that you will not do anything.
I'm kind of thinking of the Ken Loach film, the last Ken Loach film, The Old Oak.
Yeah.
With the risks and just the will to do something.
Yeah, that's true. The fact that the municipality put no banks in the park is because you run the risk that we have drug dealers. They will put these banks on fire, so they will be destroyed. So it's better to have no banks. But there live lots of elderly, and they only can walk if there's a bank once in a while, because otherwise the distance is too long. So you actually disable them.
So it's disciplining.
Yeah, it's disciplining, but it's also, but if you have a bank, then probably there will be drug dealers and
the sidelines are about that as well, about discipline and control.
no,
We
I
want
think
to
that's
see
a kind of
through.
aesthetic.
Okay.
Conspicuous leisure.
Yeah.
The people walking through the park and enjoying their leisure time, they need to decide that. I think that's where it comes from.
Okay, so it's
from
not about
a long time
knowing
ago.
where the drug dealers
No,
are and
no,
no
it's
hiding
different.
places.
But to be honest, there are also cities that say, simply asphalt, or is it?
Yeah, concrete.
Put it on concrete, yeah.
That's what we do with our gardens.
Thank you for your presentation. It's been great, and I totally agree with most of things you said. I have I think this is like a training session, and you were in your presentation. There's something about the role of university. So you were kind of challenging what is the role of university, or at least you were defending a particular role of the university, which is has very much to do with. That has to be embedded in the community and has to be in a very particular kind of relationship with people, with the locality, with the place, which is kind of going against the trend. Nowadays the trend is internationalization, it's mobility, and it's really difficult for people to stay in the same place for more than 2 years, something like that. So especially in academic life, is speeding up and changing. You're moving from one place to another place, especially the newer generation. So I was wondering if there's also kind of a prayer for a message to the university, so to your institution, to create a different working condition, something like that. Just because it was like, you didn't say it explicitly, but I think this is something because, for next generation, I think, okay, but if I have to, spend 1 year here, 2 years there, all this, it's difficult to have, to create this type of bonds, long-term bonds in order to do this type of academic research, or what I mean. And then I have another question. It's more specific that has to do with the planners. So you said, okay, but the architects, they have a clear idea of what is a good design, and there are some rules, and they have technical rules. And nowadays, the urban space is over-regulated by technical rules, and this goes against the possibility of meaningful participation in terms of changing this type of rules. So I want to know more about your experience with this, because it's how to sensitize planners and technical experts to change rules, or because sometimes when we speak to architects, they say, sorry, it's like, okay, it's a lack of political will. There's no problem with the technical rules.
Yeah.
It's a lack of political will. So they blame the council.
I think the first question I find is very interesting, because I also think that because I like saying globalization of universities, but I think also that we do not make the most of it, because these other universities are kind of abstract offices in which nothing happens. And I think when you embed, sorry? Okay. When you embed universities much more, say, in all types of local life than for, say, international students and colleagues, it will becoming much more interesting to work with us for 2 years. Because when you make it much more in kind of hybrid buildings, there are also when you meet other humans than just academics, and other things can be done than just watching on your laptop. I think the environment will be much more vibrant. You will be connected much more to the city where you will be, although it may be for half a year or a year or 2 years. Not everybody is required to build up kind of long-term relationship. But I think when universities are much more connected to everyday life in terms of the space and the design of the space and the kind of activities that take place, then I think universities will become much more interesting. And then because we do have a kind of big problem between say academics and high educated people who design the world, and many other people who have not possibilities to do so. So we have to bring these groups together one way or another, because I think it's an enormous problem. But I think that the university is situating herself in a kind of neutrality, like as if she could not do anything about it. So now universities are protesting in the Netherlands about budget cuts, but they were not protesting, but the cleaners were, the budget of the cleaning was cut. They also gave out the cleaning task to a specific private company who can do it cheaper. You know, you can also have a social policies at university. So if you are as a university committed about, say, the real problem and the gap between people with high education who have lots of opportunities in the world and people with less formal diplomas, then I think there should be skin in the game and you should do anything about it. And I can be angry, but.
On the side note, this morning we had a meeting in my institute, and they were saying they will lose, some people will lose the privileges of home office. And it just connects me also to like, now we treat home office as a privilege that you may lose, and then you have to go back to the building as a punishment. So that could be also true.
Yeah, but maybe the building can become more interesting.
Yeah, maybe. We are kind of run out of time. If there any pressing question that needs to be posed now, or we can take it to the outside places. Do we have some? So once again, thank you very much for the.